inspectors, regional and local inspectors from the Egyptian educational system. I talked to them about the changes. They were very interested. But after a while they said, well, that's all very well, but you haven't mentioned the book. And I had to say to them, well, we do have a core which runs like the trunk of a tree through the curriculum. But we don't use the book, we use a range of books. I'll leave you to decide how they came to a conclusion about that. Along with the new curriculum came the greater use of computers. Yeah, you're used to them. You have them every day. In those days we didn't. However, there were few of these in the school at the time, and so it became an early project to have a marked increase in the number, including the provision of a computer suite. We hadn't got marvellous playing fields like you're used to now. For sport and physical education, we built an all-weather pitch in one of the villas, but made full use of sporting clubs and their swimming facilities. Now, Mr. Ahmed Suleiman, an international contractor who owned the villas, had a farm about 60 kilometres south of Cairo. With his permission, we developed the farm into a field study centre. The farm was on the edge of the Nile Valley, so we were able to study both valley and desert. Later, older students would use the facility for orienteering activities. Parties would go to the farm for one day or several days, depending on the age of the children and the purpose. While we were there on one day with 60 children or so, in October 1992, we experienced an earthquake. It turned out that we were actually on the fault line and roughly at the epicenter. Now, the quake struck at about 3:10 in the afternoon. We'd gathered all the students who had been round the farm, carrying out investigations in small groups. Outside the large villa there, we used as a base. As the noise grew to a crescendo, rather like the talking I can hear now, the ground shook. Fissures opened up in the ground. The villa was shaking. The first floor veranda was a mere blur. Mrs. Jones, the vice principal at the time, happened to be celebrating her birthday. She rushed out of the villa in a state of consternation. Prabinder, one of the youngest Indian boys in the party, called out to me, "Please, sir, did you lay this on for this as a surprise birthday treat for Mrs. Jones?" Rather than being frightened, the children found it an exciting experience, as no doubt you would. They recorded on tape and in notes and pictures what they saw and felt, and it turned out to be a great learning experience. The quake lasted only about a minute or so, but it seemed much longer. Now, we lost power, we lost water supply and communication with the outside world, because in those days we relied on landlines for communication. The mobile phone was just not around in those days. So we had to set up a campfire for cooking. And the farm people provided water and oil lamps. A parent turned up in his car to find out what was going on and to collect his daughter. He hadn't wanted her there in the first place. When he found out that she was thoroughly enjoying herself and what was going on, he stayed with us for the evening meal and then went back to Heliopolis on his own to report to the parents that all was okay. And we stayed on to complete the program. Now, it was lovely to see you all in your national costume this afternoon. When I arrived at the school, I happened to notice that the children came in almost every type of clothing you could imagine. Girls vied with each other over dress, while the boys generally came in sports gear of some kind or another. To encourage corporate identity and to reduce attempts to vie with each other over the latest fashion, a school uniform was introduced with blue and white striped shirts, blue trousers for boys and dresses or trousers for the girls. Now, the colour and logo may have changed, but the basic dress code remains the same. In those days, our logo was a flaming sun behind a pyramid. Now the Gulf War in around 1990 time saw a significant change in the shape of the school. A number of expatriate families were repatriated and the school shrunk in size. After the war, many families returned, but those who had previously had older children in boarding schools brought them out to be with them, and the age profile of the families changed. At the same time, with large companies completing contracts, the pattern of companies changed. The number of British families decreased, but the number of European and Commonwealth families increased. And also, of course, there was an influx of schools, including schools like Modern English School, which many of you will know. The time was right for the school to respond, and I prepared a plan to extend the school into secondary education. At the same time, many of the parents of current children came to me seeking this change so that their children could remain in the school after the age of 11. And I've just met one of those boys who was involved then. He's now a grown-up married man. His name is Meldel Druby, and he's been to see me this evening. It was great to see him. A new villa for the secondary school was rented in Ardal Gulf and extended so that we could have laboratories and other specialist rooms for suitable or specific subjects. The curriculum was designed to teach a course leading to IGCSE. Spanish was added to the curriculum taught. The plan was for the sixth form to undertake the International Baccalaureate. But at the time, the school wasn't as big as it is today, and we felt that the IB was too expensive, and so we planned for A-levels through the British Council. Bearing these changes in mind, I had the year before appointed a man called William Wells, a Canadian, to the staff. William had been teaching at Manor House School for some time, and such was the respect in which he was held that I had a deputation of parents and students from Manor House asking me not to take him away from them. However, I appointed William as head of the secondary school. He turned out to be a charismatic teacher and leader, and he proceeded to develop the secondary department well and effectively. Bob Montgomery, already on the staff, became the head of primary. He too proved to be a very effective head teacher of the primary department, much loved by the children. And we have a member of staff here who many of you know, Josephine Gadd, who's here this evening, and she will have taught with Bob on the staff. About 10 years ago, William Wells left the school and set up the Townhouse Gallery in downtown Champollion Street. He and the gallery are now much respected internationally. From the advent of the secondary department, the school began to grow again and again. The numbers doubled very quickly, and the range of nationalities rose to 38. The school buildings were extended to their limits. It was clearly necessary for us to look for an alternative accommodation. We looked at purpose-built schools in Nasser City and the sites along the Ismailia Road and the Arabi section before the site of the present school was located. Now, the accreditation of the school in the United Kingdom and internationally was always seen as important. To maintain that accreditation, I used the Worldwide Education Service, a recognised accreditor. Inspections were brought in once every 3 years to maintain that accreditation. And I'm so pleased to hear that NCBIS has now become a member of CIS, which will do them proud. Now, visits outside the school were seen as valuable and as a valuable resource for the curriculum. Apart from our visits to the farm and the many places in and around Cairo, we also included visits to Upper Egypt. Now those led by William Wells could become embarrassing because on visits to the Egyptian Museum and places in Luxor, for example, the school party often attracted people away from their guides because of the skill and scholarship of Mr. William, who the tourists found irresistible. As a primary school, though, we had competed in sport with other schools, especially the Football League run at the Cairo American College in Mahdi. When the secondary school came into its own, sport widened and included trips abroad, including a skiing trip to France. In my staff, I looked for a range of youth and experience and encouraged continuity of service where appropriate. One lasting example of continuity on the teaching staff is, of course, Mrs. Saman, whose years of service are valued and respected. While on the teaching assistant staff, there is Hannah Gergis in the nursery school. She came to us with little experience and almost no English, but has worked hard and well, and her command of English is now excellent. The school also has a very loyal band of Boabs, many of whom I appointed to the old school some 20 years ago. Now, there was one sad note to mention, and that was our school administrative manager, a man, Mr. Laik Labib Ayoub, who died on the day I left the school. Mr. Laik was a much respected Egyptian Army and Air Force colonel and provided great assistance to the school and to me in particular. I will be forever grateful for his friendship. I was sorry to leave the school, but will always remember my time at it with love and affection. When I left the school in 1996, I returned to be a principal of a school in the United Kingdom, until last year an inspector of independent schools in the UK and British international schools around the world. It has been a privilege to be able to visit the school each year and watch it develop and grow. And I'm also grateful to Mr. Martin, the principal, that I've been invited here today and had the opportunity to speak to you about something of the school's past history. My wife, who also taught at the school, and I wish the staff and students every success in the next 30 years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Costin. A wonderful history lesson for all of us. Thank you for going up and getting your dinner before you were asked. We really appreciate that. It's put the program into a real spin. We'll manage to somehow save the evening, but thank you to those people who moved up and created those wonderfully long lines and enabled us not to get it in some sort of order. But be that as it may, we will push on, and we're having fun, and all the children are having fun. We'll join you again in a little while because we have some very, very serious awards to give out, and we'd like to have everyone's full attention when we do give out those awards because they are to some very deserving people. So thank you, and we'll join you again after you have eaten, which by the looks of those lines may be in quite some time. If you can't quite see me in the centre, you can look at the big screens. I'm in Technicolor on my right and on my left. So you can catch me in all sorts of parts of this venue. A thrill for everyone, no doubt. We have a very special cake somewhere that's coming very shortly. I can smell it, but I can't see it yet. So there's a very special cake coming forward, and we're going to celebrate our 30th anniversary by cutting the cake. If anyone sees a cake on their table, put up their hands and you can let me know and I'll come and grab it from your table. We have a cake anywhere? Oh, hang on. There we go. Here comes the cake now. Round of applause for the cake. Yes, that's fantastic. Look at this. Now, children, we don't want you going near where the cake is because there's going to be a lot of fireworks and Mr. Van Ryswick may jump out of it. So, children, can you come back away from the cake? Children, back away from the cake. Thank you very much. It's very exciting. But if you look at the big screen, you'll see it up there as well. So if we can ask children to stay back, thank you very much to those security who have jumped in and protected the cake. Look at that, the flares are on. Looks like Mr. Benzie's science lab. There we go. Children, just stay back, please. Stay back. We need everyone to move back, please. We don't want anyone to get hurt here. It's a very exciting cake. It's got the Circle of Peace symbol on it. You can see it on the big screens. And we'd ask Mr. Richard Costin, one of the former principals, the first overseas hired principal, to come forward and cut the cake. All we need is a knife. Yes, we have a knife. Oh, it's a sabre. Look at that. Yes, if you don't stand back, watch out, children. And there it is. Let's give a round of applause as we cut a hole in the pyramid. Fantastic. Look at that. Okay, Mr. Costin's cut a nice slice for me, and we'll get the rest of it out to you very shortly. If we could ask you all to sit down again, please, that'd be wonderful. We have some very special awards to give out. Okay, yes, all the paparazzi are here. The cake's not going anywhere. They're chasing it. Hopefully not through a tunnel, but let's all sit down now because we have some very special awards. We come now to the most important part of the evening at the plateau here. We have some people to recognise. So if I could indulge you for only a few more moments. We have some awards to give out. And the first award, thank you to those people who are listening. I really appreciate it. The first award is to our longest serving teacher at the school. Someone who has been here for a huge amount of time and contributed so much to the well-being of many, many pupils, the well-being of staff, and has contributed so much of herself and her life to NCBIS. Could I please ask Mrs. Anthea Saman to come forward and receive a very special award. Mrs. Saman is coming forward, I believe. Ah, there she is. Coming forward now to receive her award. Let's give Mrs. Saman a round of applause, please. Mrs. Saman tells me she's lost count of how many years she's been here, but she has been a wonderful servant of the school and continues to excel in all aspects. So congratulations to Mrs. Saman, and thank you to Mr. Jorgensen, our board chair, for presenting her with this award. Our second award is for our longest serving student. And our longest serving student, did you want to read that for me? No? Okay, it's Mustafa Shifa, who has been here for 13 years, I believe. He told me year 4 were the best 5 years of his life. So Mustafa Shifa, if he could come forward now, please. Unfortunately, doesn't look like he could be here tonight for some reason. Must have been ill. He's studying, yes. We also have a very special guest with us tonight. It was from our first cohort of graduating students from year 13, and he went right through the school, and he's come back, an alumni, Ahmed El Drubi. If Ahmed is here, we'd ask you to come forward now and receive a very special award. Hey, Ahmed is here. Thank you very much. Can we make a gap here, guys? Let's make a gap. The next award is for Mr. Richard Costin, one of the first principals of Heliopolis British School and NCBIS. So Mr. Costin, we'd like you to accept award from the school as well. Ah, here he is. We also have a number of people without whom the event would not have been possible, and that was the organising committee. So I'm going to mention their names, and each of them played a very special part. I won't mention everything that they did because we'd be here for a very long time. But on behalf of everyone at NCBIS, both the community, parents, staff, students, we thank the organising committee for the tireless efforts that they have put in to make this event so successful. And I know those people who can't hear me or who aren't listening at the moment, in their heart of hearts, they are thinking exactly the same thing. So the organising committee consists of the following people, and we'd ask them to maybe just come forward, raise their hands, and we'd ask them to receive your gratitude and your appreciation. We have special awards for 2 people. Those 2 people have put in an inordinate amount of work. They have worked day and night for the last 6 months in order to make this event as special as it has been. So could I please ask to come forward, first of all, Mona Salim. Mona has put in countless hours of work, has been a tireless worker in terms of getting everything organised, making sure we had all the permissions necessary, liaising with promoters, liaising with sponsors, and working around the clock basically for the last 6 months. So thank you to Mona. The second person is a volunteer at the school who has been basically a full-time employee of the school, but with no recompense. The joy that she gets is knowing that she can serve the school in such a way that she can be of benefit to the community of NCBIS. So would you please join me in thanking and welcoming to the stage Miss Linda Gold, who has put in hours of work. For those of you who have visited the school recently, you would have seen both Mona and Linda sitting at the top of the administration stairs, working around the clock, getting everything ready for this evening. And their efforts have caused this to be such a memorable event. So thank you again to Linda and Mona.